Today we continue in my historical saga of Greece, a recounting of my journey across the Greek mainland. Last video we delved into Delphi, a place brimming with significance, replete with gods flying down to earth, archaic wars being fought, and an unending legacy from then to now. Such a place is a hard act to follow when it comes to the subject of this sort of video, but trust me when I say that this one is more than a match when it comes to the essence of Greek culture. The place is Olympia, home of the legendary games to which it gave its name and which we still celebrate every 4 years today. The ruins of this ancient city still tell a remarkable story of the athletes, fighters, heroes and poets that would have graced the sands and stands with their accomplishments. The temples, stadiums, gymnasia and more, while quiet now, are still impressive enough to summon once more 1,000 years of roaring crowds. Leaving Delphi, we start to travel southwest of the Parnassus, down the winding roads of central Greece, overlooking the Gulf of Corinth. Our mission is to cross the water where it meets the Gulf of Patras, and drive down, then into the Peloponnese. To do so, we've got to cross the Antirrio Bridge, a marvel of engineering and a marvel to behold. Nearly 3 kilometers long, its construction finished in just 2004, and the first people to officially cross it were none other than the Olympic torchbearers when Greece iconically hosted the games back then. And so we sort of followed in their footsteps, with less running and less ceremony, leaving Aetolia Acarnania behind us and entering into the region of Elis, home to Olympia. Before we get too hasty though, there was one significant stop we made just before Elis, and this was the capital of western Greece in the region of Achaea. Patras is a port city just a little beyond Rio, the town at the southern end of the Antirrio Bridge. It's a dense urban and maritime centre on the sea, and was the perfect place to rest after the drive from Delphi. Since Antiquity, it has been a critical location for sea travel, most notably serving as one of the more popular places for Romans to go to and from Italy. In its time, it has hosted the likes of Alcibiades, Cicero, Mark Antony, Caesar, and many, many more. It was said in fact to be Alcibiades of Athens who oversaw the city's expansion down to the shoreline, convincing the people of Patras to build walls right down to the sea in order to accommodate Athenian ships during the Peloponnesian War. Plutarch recalls an anecdote in which a local Patrensian argued against this project, saying Athens would eventually swallow the city up, to which Alcibiades responded, "Hysos kata mikron kai kata tous podas, la kai daimonioi kata ten kephalen kai athros." Perhaps, but slowly and feet first, while Sparta would swallow you head first and in one go. Ever the witty politician. But back to Olympia. So, we continue south along the coast and eventually turn eastward inland at Pyrgos to arrive at the home of the Olympic Games. The first thing you're struck by when you reach the site is just how well preserved it is. Remember, the place has been struck by so many earthquakes over the years that there's barely a pillar left standing, and yet you can't help but marvel at the care gone into it. Beautiful pink-leaved trees and verdant grass patches frame the demarcating lines between each ruin. As with most ancient Greek phenomena, Olympia's origins lie in myth. Pausanias, our ever-present shadowy travelling companion, recounts that the first temple in Olympia was dedicated to Kronos when he ruled the heavens. This explains the name of the hill overlooking the Altis, sacred heart of Olympus, named to Kronion, or Mount Kronos. When Zeus was still a child, his mother Rhea appointed 5 guardians to him, the Ιδαίοι Δακτύλοι, the Idaean dactyls or fingers of Ida. At Olympia, they engaged in a Hamiladromou, a running race here to entertain baby Zeus, and the winner received the very first olive wreath. Henceforth, it's said the Olympian gods frequently challenged each other to athletic events here, in the most ancient days of the universe. Another account occurs later and is covered in my video on the cursed family of Atreus. When Atreus' father Pelops beat King Oenomaus in a chariot race to marry his daughter Hippodamia, it was he who established the tradition of the games. The myth of Pelops and Oenomaus is one of the major events depicted on the walls of the Temple of Zeus, as shown in the Olympia Museum. The Peloponnese there is said to be his resting place, and the Hippodamion hers. And of course, last but very much not least, the mighty Heracles gets his own origin story, with the lyric poet Pindar singing Olympiada destasen Herakles acrothina polemu. The Olympics were founded by Heracles as the foremost trophy of war. A dedication to his father when his labours were complete, marked by the olive tree Łιστρού αποσκιάραν paganeniken amphotruinadas, brought by the son of Amphitryon from the shaded waters of the Danube. Archaeological consensus, on the other hand, suggests the first games were held under the administration of the local Eleans in 776 BCE, with some scholars contesting that they had been going even centuries before that. It was around then that the Archaeological, the Olympic truce, was founded, a tradition honoured, sort of, even during the Peloponnesian War, which made Olympia a neutral ground. As for the events held at the Olympic Games, I urge you to watch my video on sport in the ancient world, where I go into more detail around the different running events, the chariot, wrestling, and the famous pankration martial art, all of which were staged over the long course of the ancient Olympic Games. These events were honoured throughout Antiquity from the 8th century BCE, potentially before, all the way through Macedonian and Roman rule until finally abolished under Emperor Theodosius II. The Roman additions to the site are still visible today, from the baths established during the early Empire to the churches repurposed from older buildings under the Christian Roman Empire. And of course, no tour of Olympia would be complete without mention of one of the ancient world's 7 wonders, the almighty statue of almighty Zeus, built by Phidias. Sadly no more, the descriptions are enough to revivify it in our eyes. Over 40 feet tall, made of ivory, gold and glass, it was a marvel to all who beheld it, not least the general Lucius Aemilius Paulus, whose experience is recorded by Livy. Ioum velut praesentem in tuans multus animo est, itaque haud secus, quam si in Capitolio emulaturus esset, sacrificium amplio solito apparari usit. As he gazed at the statue of Jupiter, he was moved to his core, as it seemed a mirror of the god himself. It so spurred him that he ordered a sacrifice far larger than normal be prepared, as if it were on the very capital of Rome. As for the genius behind such a marvel, the remnants of Phidias' workshop are also must-sees on any Olympian tour. What struck me looking at his paraphernalia in the museum was one particular mould. It had been used to craft just one fold in Zeus's cloak, seen by the curved indents on it. The time, effort, attention to detail, all for one small portion of a 12-meter statue. The man truly was incredible. So, though all that remains of the great temple of Zeus on the Altis at Olympia is its foundations, surrounded by the fallen great round drums which were once stacked into tall columns, its memory lives on through the writings of antiquity and the archaeology of today. An incredible experience all around, topped off by the wonderful hospitality of the local tavernes.